Did you know you were going to be an NFL player?
I knew from the time I was 8 years old. Anytime anybody talked to me, asked me, Eb, what are you going to do when you grow up? I was like, I'm going to play in the NFL. People would go, oh, that's fun. What's your plan B? I was like, there's no plan B. I walked it, I talked it, I ate it, I slept in it. It was just who I was.
In today's episode, we have Eben Britton, ex-NFL player and turned into self-development guru.
As long as you believe that somebody outside of you has the answer, you're going to always be going to somebody. A really big part of growing up and becoming an adult is this process of individuation, which essentially means you become a sovereign being. You become the individual that was born here to be on this planet. And in that, you have the power to make all the decisions for yourself. And all of it is in here. I laid down in the back of his hound car and I was just like so exhausted. But my dad was like, yeah, this is everything you've dreamed of. And you're right there. It's going to be hard sometimes, but you got this. And you got to keep going.
Welcome back to House of Impact Podcast. It's your host, Jenny Gore here. And in today's episode, we have Eben Britton. He will walk us through how to conquer the power of your mind to achieve any goal and any dream you have in life and give you tools to transform your life. So if you've been having the dreams, a goal that you really want to achieve, this will be the episode for you. If you like it, please subscribe because it's really helped the channel grow. We will roll with the episode now. Welcome to House of Impact Podcast, Eben. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for the invite, Jenny.
I want to start with something that you recently posted, and it was about embracing your truth. What does it truly mean to follow your truth, and how can we stay true to ourselves?
It's a great question. I love that. I was a little worried, sometimes when you're coming into a podcast, they're going to say, well, tell us about yourself. And it's always...
We would just go straight into it over here.
I love that. I love it. Well, truth feels like a really big topic for me right now, for groups that I'm in, particularly this men's group that I host and a prosperity workshop that I've been doing for the last year with an old mentor. And the concept or the topic of truth has come up. I think it's a really interesting one. Because there's, as with anything, there are many dimensions to it. And I think in this spiritual wellness community that has emerged through social media, I think it's been a bit of a catch-all phrase for a seeming North Star to follow your truth, or I'm following my truth. It's my truth. And while I think that's really great and important, and I'll talk about what I feel like that actually is in a second, but first of all, you have to understand or recognize, like, what is your truth and where is that coming from? Because the term my truth, your truth, depending on where you're at in your life, may not necessarily be something that you want to follow. Something that was offered to me recently by a teacher was a certain aphorism that said, learn to trust your instincts. Learn to distrust your patterns and your habits. And I thought that was so powerful for me, especially in terms of this conversation, because is your truth something that seems to be or seems to have hijacked your ability to make decisions, your innate God-given free will, which a lot of us don't use very often. We're living through programming. A lot of the decisions we make are the result of certain beliefs that we hold about who we are or what we have to do in a certain situation. And it's not really about doing the best thing in the moment or doing the thing that takes us on the highest timeline or in the direction of our vision for ourselves and our lives. So I think that living in truth has been the way that I've reframed the concept for myself. And when I talk about it, living in truth, because in any situation, there's my truth, there's the other person's truth, and then there's the truth of what's going on in that situation, that environment, that circumstance, whatever it might be, particularly in relationships. And so if we can learn to live in truth, which essentially to me means being really honest about where you're at right here, right now, and that place being the direct result of the decisions you've made, the actions you've taken, the thoughts you've given energy to, and where you've put your awareness, your intention. And if we can start there and look at truth as this baseline point of what's going on and be super honest about it, I think that is the most powerful position to be in at any moment, any given moment. Now, we live in a really interesting time where there's so much information coming at us. We live, most of us, until we climb our way out of that hole, we're living in this tornado of shoulds and I have tos and I gotta, and if I don't, then I'm a failure, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not always that. Living in that noise doesn't always serve us on the path of who we're trying to be, or living in our highest potential. So if we can get to a place where we've quieted down a lot of that noise and we can get to the center of ourselves, and maybe even it doesn't take that much to get to the center of ourselves, but to start listening to that inner guide, which is that voice that comes in at seemingly totally spontaneous moments. You're driving down the street, you're doing the dishes, you're taking your dog on a walk, whatever it might be, that thing, that moment where you're totally just kind of emptied, your mind is totally empty. And that whisper comes in, that insight, that feeling, that sense of, I need to go there. I need to move there. I need to take that job.
A nudge inside.
Yeah, that inner nudge that says, like, why don't we start that business? Or why don't we take a step towards that? Why don't I call that person? I think that is the part of trusting your instincts and learning to trust your instincts. To me, instincts and intuition, and in terms of this conversation, are pretty synonymous. I mean, at this stage where, we're not living out in the jungle anymore, we're not living in the forest and having to, we're not in a constant state of fight or flight survival mode of like, what are we going to eat? Are we going to get eaten by something else? Et cetera, et cetera. We're in a very psycho-spiritual atmosphere of human experience at this stage. So your instincts are this incredible, cellular intelligence that you've accumulated throughout the course of your life to keep you safe, to tune into what other people are feeling, what other people are doing, what's good for you, what direction you should go in. It's an inner sense, and so if we can get out of following our intellect all the time, which is that voice of like, you should do this. If you do this, then this will happen. Getting out of that if-then equation of living, which is like, I don't know. It's a very high percentage of anything that's being said out there about which direction to go in or how to organize yourself, optimize yourself, all these things that are kind of buzzwords and like the trendy, the trendy pathways and programs that are out there, which there's a lot of good stuff out there too, and we all have to start somewhere. But I think that if we can learn to trust our instincts / intuition, start to distrust our habits, our patterns, those things that we do every day just to kind of fill time, or because I'm going into that meeting, or, well, I need to do this before I can do that, if then, all of that stuff. if we can get out of that, I think you're on the pathway of starting to live in your truth, which is really what this moment in time is all about for everybody. Like in order for human beings to get to the next level of our evolution and our consciousness, wherever we're going from here, I think truth is the fundamental principle by which we have to do that, by which that process begins, through technology, which is amazing. I'm a big fan of it, I think it's been so incredible. I mean, we connected through it, it's like, it's an amazing tool. However, one thing it's done for us is it's put this veil between us and others that makes it really easy for us not to live in truth. It makes it really easy for us to, scapegoat, not answer the text, not show up to the thing you said you were going to show up to. And I think there's a really, one of my mentors, he lives by Wu Wei, the Taoist philosophy of I don't move until spirit moves me. So if I tell you that I'm going to meet you there at 5:00 in the evening tomorrow, and then during the day tomorrow, I feel like that doesn't feel like it's in the flow of my day, I'm not going to fucking do that. That's me following spirit rather than applying myself to, the structures of society, conforming to society ideals, which I think there's a lot of value in that too. However, it comes down to the communication, which is where the truth lies. So you're going, well, you know what? This came up for me today, so I'm going to have to reschedule or whatever the thing might be. But I think that if we can start to tune into that little voice within, that inner sense, follow it little by little. I mean, look, you're not, I spent my life as an athlete, and in that programming, I've had to do a lot of work around if it's not, 1,000%, it's not good enough. Some days it's like, maybe we go 10, maybe we get like just plus 10 today. And that's a really good move because we're keeping the momentum going. We're moving in the direction of where we want to go. Getting out of that all or nothing mentality, just like take little baby steps, little by little, make it a practice. It's all got to be a practice. Everything is a practice. I think that it's very apparent to me how much we're dying for the magic pill. It's like, give me the thing that's going to solve all my problems. Give it to me now. It's like nothing works that way.
You said something that really stuck with me. And you said, if you want the answer for all the issues you have, stop outsourcing from the outside and just go inwards. Because the solution is within yourself.
Always. It always is. And that's a process as well because I've had a really interesting experience lately where I've been in conversation with family members or friends, and they're telling me about this thing that they're really struggling with, or, this person in their life they're really struggling with. And I'm listening to them and going, God, it seems so simple to me. Like, a healthy person doesn't involve themselves in an abusive relationship. That's one example, like we toil with things as long as, we're in conflict with things as long as we believe that we have to be in conflict with them, if that makes sense. And it goes the same with everything, as long as you believe that somebody outside of you has the answer, you're going to always be going to somebody older, mom, dad, whoever. But I think a really big part on a really basic level, a really big part of growing up and becoming an adult is this process of individuation, which essentially means you become a sovereign being. You become the individual that was born here to be on this planet. And in that, you have the power to make all the decisions for yourself. And all of it is in here, you know?
Why do people believe they don't? Like, when it comes to them making a choice, why do they believe they just don't give themselves permission? Like, why is that?
I think we're really conditioned to be like that, you know, from the time we're little kids. Through our, and it's nothing, I'm not gonna, I mean, there's, you know, I don't think there's anything nefarious about it. It's just how we're programmed from a very vulnerable age, you know, from the time we come out of our mother's womb. There's somebody, you know, I mean, I can't think of a circumstance where a child is born and there's no one around who's telling them where to be, how to think, what clothes to wear, being judged and criticized and told, well, that's actually not how we do that. We don't write the E's this way. We write the E's like this, you know, in school, at church, you know, then you're putting on the TV and this thing's coming on and you're learning all of these perceived right ways to do things, but there's no right way to do anything. You know, it's just like, it's just somebody decided that was their way of doing it. And so I think that that's, you know, one of those things that is it's just part of the process of being a human being and coming into the earth realm, of having to deprogram yourself of the conditioning that you've been put under throughout your entire life. And whenever you wake up to that, it's varying points, you know?
How would we do that? Like, for the audience watching or listening, like, if you would give us like specific steps on how to start doing that, because probably a lot of people, they don't even realize they are in it until they sit still with themselves and start untangling.
Well, it's a great question, and it's a big question. I guess a really great practical way to do it would be if you just start to listen to how you communicate with other people and how you communicate with yourself. What is the language you're using? Because in your language will be the reflection of the beliefs that you hold about things. Like, I was talking to my partner last night. We were going to dinner and we were talking about how it can be really difficult to be really vulnerable and open with people for various reasons, you know. Sometimes I've had this experience. I'm sure many people have had this experience. Sometimes you share really vulnerable personal things with people, and a week or two later, somebody's coming to you and saying, "Hey, why did you say that?" Or, "What's going on here? Are you okay?" And you're like, "Whoa, dude. I thought I was confiding in a friend." And I was listening to her talk, and all of her points were super valid. And I said this to her. I was like, "Look," because she asked me, like, "What do you think about what I said?" And I said, "Look, I think it is really difficult. It can be difficult to share, be vulnerable and open with people. And I think in that, having the experiences that we've had where somebody's turned around and shared that with someone else, or said the thing that we shared about that person, and now it's tainted that person's view of this other person, whatever the thing might be. And that's created this fracture of trust in us, this sensitivity to, oh, well, I can't share with anybody. And what she was saying was, the words that were coming out of her mouth were, "It is really hard to share with people." And I could see her painting herself into this corner where she's like, who do I get to share with? Because is there anybody? I don't. And it was interesting for me because I had recently had this experience where, thinking about some people in my family and having this big feeling about some people are totally incapable of choosing a new way of doing things in this lifetime.
Why is that?
Well,
Why do they struggle? Like, why do they? Like, I've seen this pattern. They want change, but they really struggle.
well, here's what I came to. The capital T truth of the matter is, because I had found myself living in a place holding the belief that some people can't do things.
Mm.
And I realized the capital T truth, the spiritual, big, giant, divine truth of the matter is everyone is capable of doing things, of doing anything. Anything is possible in the eyes of God. Now, I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics. I grew up in a family that was very affected by the disease of alcoholism, which created in me this perception, this safety protocol to go, you know what? Some people are not capable of certain things. But what it was doing, me holding that belief, it was dead-ending me in this belief that I can't hope for better for people, you know? So I realized I was like, wow, what a relief. I get to surrender that idea because I do believe, like 100%, I believe, no doubt in the core of my being, every single person on this planet is capable of anything. You can change in a second, you know?
How? If we could,
If you
is it
choose.
through our mind? Is it through our reprogramming, subconscious identity? What comes first?
Well, I think that's a really great question, and I don't think there's one specific answer to it because I think the how can happen in any form it comes in. Because the change is right here, you know. The change is here now. So it can be a long drawn out process. It can be a whole lifetime of process up until one moment where all of a sudden it changes. You know, everything in you is saying, you know, your whole programming saying go right, and you just decide, I'm going to go left today. So I think it can happen by any which way it materializes. And everybody's going to be different. You know, some people, you got to go through the process. You got to go to therapy. You got to break down these walls. You got to go and do ayahuasca if you're called to that. You got to go and, you know, do the big hike or get out into nature or whatever it might be. You got to like get to the core of your being to meet with your inner child and have that face-to-face experience in your mind. I think it can happen any way, any which way it comes. You know, something that I think about a lot is this idea that a lot of the spiritual gurus talk about, like, there is no process. It's all here and now. But for somebody in the West, that's really difficult to take in, you know? It's like, well, what do you mean it's all here and now? I'm a fucking mess, or, you know, like I feel like my life is a disaster or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, well, it is all here and now. You have the power to change everything. That's a possibility. And perhaps for you right now to get started, got to take it one step at a time. Let's just clean your car up. You know, let's take your car, get your car washed, clean the inside of your car out. That's one little aspect of your life, but that getting that in order is going to send ripples into the rest of your life. That's going to create order in all sorts of other areas of your life. Okay. Your closet's a mess. Well, you probably do your laundry, if you do your laundry at all, and you just like throw your clothes into the closet, you know? Well, if your whole closet's a mess and all your clothes are just in piles, the universe is going, well, dude, you're satisfied. It's all good here. You know, there's no space for anything new to come in. So you go, okay, let me take this. The next step, I'm going to clean my closet up. I'm going to fold all my laundry. I'm going to put it neatly on the shelves. This seems totally like, who cares? You know, it doesn't matter, Eb. I'm trying to make $1 million. You know, I'm trying to build my business. I'm trying to live the life of my dreams. Who cares if my closet's a mess? Everything really matters though, because it's all connected. And you can start that small. You can get that granular with it. And when you get into the earth, everything is then in alchemical wisdom or ancient mystery schools. There's a lot of talk about, and they've formalized this process. And that shows up in even a lot of modern personal development programs. But basically comes down to, we've got these 4 elements which correlate to 4 dimensions of being. You've got earth, which is the physical plane. You've got water, which is the emotional plane, which is all about your belief. You've got air, which is mental, your thoughts. And then you've got fire, which is the spiritual plane. So any one of them, because we're trying to get it all into the earth. We're trying to materialize it all into the physical plane. And it can happen by any which way that it comes, right? Like, you can change your water, your emotional atmosphere, your subconscious belief matrix. You can change that by changing the actions you're taking. So it can be an outside-in approach, or it can be an inside-out approach. You can change your beliefs. You can change what you hold to be true about yourself and your life and your relationship to the world. You can change all that, and then the physical starts to change, or that creates space for you to take new actions. So I don't think there's any right way to do it. There's many ways to skin a cat, as they say. However, the one constant throughout is that it's on you, right? Nobody outside of you is going to do it. Like, there's nobody coming to save you. Sorry. Nobody's going to fix it. At some point, we all have to recognize, look, man, I got to put my shoes on every day. I got to get to work. I got to put the energy and the attention into this thing that I want to create, because nobody's going to create it for me. That's just the bottom line. So it is this individual, super personal path that we all have to go on. I think it was interesting because we have a lot of great conversations, my girlfriend and I, and we all face immense adversity, across the spectrum. Some people to staggering degrees, that you can't even imagine. And through all of that adversity, there is either, it seems, which is interesting. This kind of just occurred to me, which maybe is dumb. Like, I should have picked this up earlier. But, it's like, it was so crystal clear. It's like, one of 2 things can happen. You can be humbled in your humanity, and which, for me, living in humility is a really powerful place to be, because you recognize that it's all on you, and it gives you the power of your will. Like, it's really the gift of realizing your divine power over yourself, your life, your circumstances. Or the other side of facing all of that adversity, somehow, which doesn't make sense to me, but I see it, is you become really entitled, and you start living in this victimhood mentality where you think that everybody owes you something, or, you've got people should just be giving you things, or whatever the thing it's crazy. It actually doesn't make sense.
No.
But it happens. And so, if you find yourself in that victimhood place, which can be more difficult, that can be difficult, because I'm talking right now and somebody who's living in the victimhood state is going, fuck that, man. You don't know what you're talking about, dude. You're an NFL player. You've got millions of dollars. I'm like, well, I don't have millions of dollars. Sure, I played in the NFL, but the truth doesn't change for you, man. Like, your decisions everything that your life is right now in this moment is a direct reflection of all the decisions you've made over the course of your life.
And what you think about yourself.
Exactly.
What you believe to be true.
Exactly. And I think that can be a really difficult pill for people to swallow who are living in that state of victimhood and entitlement and thinking that they're owed something. Like, dude, nobody cares. It's one of the sad yet super liberating truths of the modern world. Like, I think there's tons of, I don't think we've ever lived in we've never lived in a more compassionate era where people actually do wish for the best for their brothers and sisters, for the global family. And yet we've all got to put food on the table, dude. Like, I got to go and earn a check just like you have to go and earn a check. And that doesn't change. And I can't necessarily help you with that. Your livelihood, your well-being is not my burden. It can't be, and it shouldn't be. You shouldn't expect that. I had a really interesting experience. I guess this was last week. I came into the city to do a podcast, and I was parking my car. This is funny, actually. It was a funny thing that ended up happening. I'm parking my car, and it's over by another recording studio where there's a Whole Foods right there, and there's like some street parking. I parked the car. I'm going to the little kiosk, and I'm like looking in, paying my thing, and I just hear this voice come over my shoulder. He's like, "Hey man, I like your hat." And my hat says "Life is a Miracle" on the back. It's kind of become a personal slogan. And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, man." And I look and I realize it's this homeless guy that I'd seen talking to some other people when I pulled up. And, I'm like, "Oh, cool, man." And I really like, I grew up in New York City and then moved to Los Angeles. So I've spent time in two of the biggest cities in the world. And the gift of that is seeing a lot of humanity really early. There's like two of the cities that have probably the worst instances of homeless in the world, other than San Francisco. And I get a lot of compassion, and I always do my best to, when it's deemed appropriate and safe, and you're not looking at somebody who's totally insane. Because that is a thing, it's like one of the things of living in the city. You learn, like, okay, this is not somebody you want to make eye contact with, But when they are, it's like, I would like to connect with this individual, because it's, it seems like, if anything, that is something I feel I'd like to be accountable to as a human being, like just seeing another person, recognizing them as being alive. And anyway, he starts talking, and I realize, okay, he's going to her. "Hey man, can you be my miracle today?" And I'm like, "All right, yeah, dude, maybe. What do you need? What are you looking for?" He's like, "Well, I haven't eaten all day." And I was like, "Dude, I'm really sorry. I just don't have any cash. Like, I just don't. I don't, I've got like some coins. I think most of them are euros from my last trip to Europe. Like, sorry." And I turn, and he's giving me, "I'm a poet, man. I've been a poet. I'm a man of words. Sometimes I get lost in my words." I'm like, "Right on, dude. I get it." He says, "I've never had a bank account." And right there, I thought, man, I would love to have a long conversation with you about that. Like, why have you chosen not to have a bank account? And now today, here we are, and it's turning into a guilt trip of me not being able to give you money to eat today. And your burden is now my burden. And I've got to take care of you. I've got to be responsible for the fact that you've chosen not to have a bank account, dude. Anyway, I end up shaking his hand. I'm like, "Brother, this is what I got for you today." And he was like kind of begrudgingly like walking away, shook my hand, And I was like, interesting, And then I come back to my car, after the podcast, and I got a ticket on my window because I got distracted and didn't put the thing in my car. I was like, oh, interesting. I ended up spending an extra $50 paying for this parking ticket and having this interesting interaction with this guy. I don't know, something about it was connected, but it was I could have sat there for the next hour. I had to get to this podcast, but I really wanted to sit down with him and go like, why have you decided not to have a bank account? And what do you think that means about your life and your relationship to the world? Just I'm curious because I've come to this place in my life where if anything is out of order for me, if I feel resentful, frustrated, angry, upset about any dimension of my reality, I recognize that it's totally on me and it's about the decisions that I've made. Like there's just no getting around it for me. Nobody's put a gun to my head and said, Eb, this is how you have to be. And so I recognize that. And that, I'm a big, I'm a big proponent of fuck the system, do it your own way, power to the people. I mean, that's like a living ethos, and I recognize that for me to have the life that I want, I've got to play the game too. And so I think that some of it, and what I've witnessed and looked at and even felt in myself is like getting over your own pride, your own righteousness, and this idea that you have that, the system is rigged or everybody's out to get you or everyone else gets it, but I don't. All of these myths that we tell ourselves to stay in the box, I think are really problematic.
The everyone gets it, but I don't. It's a clear example of like victimhood. And then like I am the one that goes and gets it. It's like the clear example is being a creator of your life instead of like a victim of your circumstance. Why I stopped right there because this is something powerful. Like, why do you think some people get what they want in life and other people almost get it or they don't get it? Is it like self-belief? Is it like of self-worth? What is happening there?
That's a great idea. That's another great question, Jenny. You're killing the questions today. Well, that's another interesting thing that we can what's the word I want to use? We can validate that spiritually and go, well, that's not God's plan for me, which is an interesting one to think about. I've come to a place where I recognize God as the ultimate creative force of everything. And yet, I am not co-creating my life with God. I am creating my life. God is going to give me what I want. And what I want is dependent on a very specific matrix of happening going on inside of here, which has almost everything to do with what I believe is possible in my own life, So I think that, if we're cutting to the bone of your life ultimately being a direct reflection of what you believe to be true about yourself and your life, and that means what your value is, what you're worth, what you're capable of, your ability to receive, then anything, if you get half of what you want or partially what you envisioned, but not the whole thing, that's a great opportunity to look and go, okay, where am I still limited here? I don't think everybody wants to have $200 billion like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, For me, like when you really get down to it, everybody can think like tap into your fire. Like your fire is the essence of power that you were brought into this human body with. And in that fire lives your deep desire, your deepest wants. Like, what do you really want? And when you tap into that, let yourself go crazy, let yourself be really free in allowing whatever is there to emerge. For me, it's like when I really tap into that, it's like $100 million would be fun. And we're talking financially, just because that's kind of that's an easy and fun example that we can use to look at and test this process, this work. So, what did those guys, what did they believe? What did they know? I think it's a powerful thing to study these people. It's always interesting to see, like, where does a guy like Elon Musk come from? Where does Jeff Bezos come from? Where do, you've read the books. Everybody's read the books, all the books. What's the one that, of course, Napoleon Hill, all the money books. You read all these, you study these people. They all have this really powerful drive. They're all incredibly driven people. They have a lot of purpose in their life. They're all, to me, what's really interesting about all of them is there's no impediments to the actions that they're taking. Like the things that a normal person might go, oh, I can never do that.
But why do they even think that in the first place? Is it because they don't have self-worth, or because there's something there, right?
100%. Oh yeah, 100%. Like, what's the difference? What's the difference between those people? Somebody who goes, I'm going to do this, Andrew Carnegie going, I'm going to build railroads across the United States. There weren't even laws. Like he was going he was a total outlaw, just building railroads from one side of the country to the other. He didn't give a shit. He wasn't waiting for a contract. He wasn't waiting for somebody to write up the papers. He just went and did it. Now, of course, we live in a different time. All that's established. Well, like whatever that might be, what's the railroad for you? What are you building for yourself? What do you want to build in your life? It comes down to, what do you believe is possible? What do you believe you're capable of? 100%. What's your sense of self-worth? What do you believe you can do in this life, And we all feel that to a degree. One of the really interesting experiences of my life was playing in the NFL. And
did you know you were going to be an NFL player?
I knew it from the time I was 8 years old. And then I started playing my freshman year of high school. And anytime anybody talked to me, asked me, Eb, what are you going to do when you grow up? I was like, I'm going to play in the NFL. Even people would go, oh, that's fun. What's your plan B? I was like, there's no plan B.
There's no plan B.
That's what I'm doing. And how I lived, I walked it, I talked it, I fucking ate it, I slept in it. It was just who I was. And that is pretty, at this stage with all the personal development books, it's the shortest cut. It's the shortest cut from point A to point B, Z, wherever you're trying to go. Whatever you're trying to be it now. Might not look like it. And you might go, dude, how do I be an NFL player right now? Well, that was really simple because every day I was going and playing football. But in my mind, in my spirit, in my heart, I was already in the NFL, and then it happened. I did it. It didn't, and we're talking about a straight line trajectory too, because I was in the sport. I knew what to do. I knew how to lift weights. I was in a program. I just had to fucking take the steps, And we can all do that. I mean, it might be a little more complicated and you might have to be a little bit more creative if you're trying to be a tech giant or if you're trying to write a book, but it's all pretty much the same. You know, if you're trying to write a book, be a writer. Write. You got to write, you know? You got to like sit down and fucking write. And when you're talking to people, I'm writing a book. Oh, what's it about? Maybe you're not ready to talk about it. Maybe you tell them a little bit about what it's about, but you're living that life of being a writer. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I'm a podcaster. I'm creating this company, whatever it is. You got to live it. You got to breathe it. You got to fucking literally assume the position. Cause this whole thing, it's just a creative machine, like your whole body, you know, your hands, your feet, your mind. It's just like the most powerful instrument in the universe of creation. And so to do anything that you want to do, to be anybody that you want to be, you 100% have that possibility. And the fastest way to that destination is to be the person now, you know? And you know, there's going to be days. I told this story came up the other day, which was so funny, really interesting to me. But when I was pretty young for my age. So going into my senior year of high school, I was still 16. I didn't turn 17 until my senior year of high school. And it was training camp going into my senior year of football. I had already committed to the University of Arizona. I had all of these scholarship offers. I had committed to the University of Arizona to play football. Like the dream was happening, you know? And training camp was so fucking hard. It was a death march. It was like every guy, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just burst into tears. I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to go. I want to quit. I want to quit.
Because it was really hard.
It was so hard, you know? And, you know, my mom, God bless her, she comes in, she's like, Eb, you know, it's okay. You can quit. You know, you're not defined by football, which is a really nice thing to say. But then my dad hears about it. My dad's like, Eb, fuck that. I'm leaving work. I'm coming to see you between practices today. My dad drove from downtown LA into Burbank, left work, brought a cooler full of Gatorades, brought me lunch. And he sat me, I laid down in the back of his Lincoln Town Car and he just drove around and talked to me and I drank like fluids and I ate my lunch and I was just like so exhausted. But my dad was like, Eb, this is everything you've dreamed of. And you're right there. It's going to be hard sometimes, but you got this. And you got to keep going. And whatever it was, I was just like, okay, you know, and I did it. And I just got back out there. And it was one of the most important things of my entire life, you know, not to quit, not to call it quits at that point. I don't know what my life would have looked like had I said, you know, forget it. I wouldn't be the person I am right now in many ways. So my point with that being, also, it's great to have supportive people around you who are encouraging you. And if you're not, dude, if people around you are going, you can't do that, man, find new fucking people. Because that's one of those things. That's one of those things. When you're a healthy individual, you do not live in abusive environments. You don't spend any time in it because we don't have time for that. We're here for a really short moment, a blip in the universe, you know, 80 years, maybe, you know. If you're really lucky, you know, you get 80 years here. Dude, there's no time. And when you're living in abusive relationships, chances are you are spending 75% of your day, minimum, 75% of your waking hours, just trying to untangle yourself from shit that isn't even yours. Did I say the wrong thing? Oh, is it my fault? Maybe they were right. Fuck that. There's no time. We don't have time to be in abusive relationships. Surround yourself with positive people who encourage you, who believe in you. Really important step. It's hard to do it alone. You can do it alone, I think. It's hard to do it alone. Great to have supportive people around you. And you could do it. If you're that type of person, we're all going to face the naysayers, no matter what, who you surround yourself with.
They said to me, don't start a podcast in the self-development space. It's too broad. It's not going to do good.
I love that. I love that post. I saw that. I love that. And so, my point being, man, it's going to be hard. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged. One of my favorite, I share it all the time because I don't think there's any more important metaphor for this aspect of human life than the story of when Jesus is baptized. Jesus is baptized. He emerges from the water. The clouds part. God's voice, Spirit descends from the heavens and says, "You are my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." Could we think of higher praise? And then right from there, Spirit takes Jesus into the wilderness to confront the devil. The greatest challenge of his life. Right after that, And so, man, we're gonna face adversity. Even when you feel like you're on the fucking path, you're on the path that God set forth for you of who you were born to be. You're going to face adversity. You're going to feel doubt. You're going to feel uncertainty. People are going to tell you you're insane or it's crazy. Like those people who would say, "That's cute, Eb, but what else are you going to be? What's plan B?" It's like, dude, fuck that. I'm playing in the NFL, And so, but how you develop that courage and that fortitude is just putting one foot in front of the other. Every single day being consistent and committed and disciplined with the effort that you're giving to your cause. So it's not easy, It's not easy.
No one said it would be.
Yeah, exactly. No one, when you're born, when you come out of your mother's womb at the hospital, there's no door or sign that says, "Hey, this is going to be a walk in the park, dude." It's going to be a challenge and it's going to be worth it,
Eb, can I ask you, how did you feel when you got into the NFL?
Man, that's a great question. It was interesting because I didn't necessarily feel the celebration. I didn't feel elated or excited about it because I just knew it was going to happen, which didn't really serve me, it was interesting because there was some humility lacking that I needed to learn still, and so when I made it into the NFL, it was more like, oh shit, now I got to do it at this level. It's like, okay, now I got to step my game up even more because now I'm here. I did this thing that I knew I was going to do, but now the journey keeps going, So, one of the things that I look back and I go, it would have been nice to have at least been able to give myself a pat on the back and recognize like what an incredible accomplishment that was. I've done it since then, but it would have been nice to experience that, But yeah, it was one of those things where I knew it was going to happen. And, it was more of Yeah, I know. Here we are. Okay. Now I gotta fucking do it, you know? So that's how that was.
I think I have one last question that I want to ask you. Um, you also talked about this in another podcast. When it comes to uncertainty in your life, you don't go to fear, you go to faith. How
Yeah.
can people do that and do that switch? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Even if we are Christians, or it's not the first thing that you go into. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Well, that's something that anytime that I'm watching myself go into the fear hole, because I recognize that I'm deciding how it's going to go. I'm deciding the outcome before it even happens. And this can happen with really great things like making the NFL. You decide, what if I fucking fail? And my first spring was ugly, dude. Like, I got in there and they wanted me to play right tackle and left guard and right guard and take snaps at center. And I'm like, dude, the playbook's already this thick. I'm learning a whole new offense. Holy shit, my head's spinning. I mean, you'd turn on the film and it would just be like, oh my God. Every play I'm like looking, asking the guy next to me, what do I do? What's next? Which way do I go? What play is this? And I went down into that fear hole deep. I'm a 21-year-old kid. I was drafted 39th overall. I talked a big game coming out of the draft, like, I want to be the best tackle that's ever played in the NFL. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is a disaster. And we finished up all of our spring practices and spring workouts and got this, like 2 or 3 week break before training camp. And I went away, and during that time, I just made a decision. I was like, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to trust. I'm going to go out there every day. I'm just going to try to get a little bit better every day. I'm going to choose one part of my game that I'm going to work to master. Okay, pass sets today. I'm working on pass sets, pass protection. All right. I'm going to just get really good at that. I'm going to do that as best I possibly can today. Okay, this day I'm going to work on my hand placement. Where are my hands going? Every time, every block, where are they going? Let me be really good at that. And by the end of that training camp, I was named the starting right tackle. I was named the starter. I was like, fuck, dude, I did it, And I had one of the best training camps of my entire life. But I got out of that deciding what it was going to be. And I got out of the fear. I stepped into faith and I just trusted. I said, look, I'm going to be me. I'm going to give it everything I can. I'm going to leave the rest up to God. And it worked out for the best. And we can do that with anything and everything in our lives, because our ego, or that part of us that part of us that lives in the shoulds and the if-thens and the I have to's, and if I don't, then ... You're starting to decide an outcome of something that really has infinite possibilities, in the eyes of God. I mean, anything is possible, literally. Believe that, know that, feel that in your body, recognize that. Who are you to decide what's supposed to happen at the end of this thing? You've got an opportunity before you. Great. Give it everything you've got. If you're in doubt, just move fast and act like you know what you're doing. If you're going to fuck up, we're going to make mistakes. One of my best friends, he's creating this incredible he's creating an incredible program. And he talks about presence over performance. And to me, it's such a powerful reframing for anything that we're doing, trust, have faith. I don't love the idea of fake it till you make it, but act like you're
embody it.
Yeah, be
until
it.
You make it.
You
Yeah,
know?
be it.
Be it. Just be it. You might not totally know it or believe it yet, but recognize that you're there for a reason, that you've got the power, and that you just have to be present and available to whatever comes up and give it your best shot. And good things are going to happen. Have that faith, trust. God's got you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't supposed to be.
No, God gave me this podcast.
I believe it. I believe it. I mean, everything I've done in my life, it's been divinely guided, God is 100% in charge. It's just up to me really to realize his highest potential for me, what he was like, Eb's going to be the fucking man, dude. Am I going to do that? And he did that with everybody.
Responding to your calling. I have one last question I always ask this to the guest. If you could go back now to that Ed when you were talking with your dad, what would you say to him with what you know now?
I would just say, yeah, your dad's right. He knows, and you're wise to listen to him. Because there's a great saying that would always be used in football: tough times don't last, tough people do. Everything is transient. It's all moving constantly. It might feel totally impossible right now, but if you just keep moving forward, you're going to get to the other side of it. And great things are going to happen on the other side of that difficulty. No doubt about it. Trust it, breathe, relax into it. Don't try to, I think when we get really uncomfortable and things feel really hard, we get hard. We tense up, we stop breathing, we clench our face, everything gets really tight and we feel like we can't go anywhere. It's like, dude, just relax and breathe. Because then you can be what you need to be for that situation. So that's what I would say.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming into House of Impact. This episode is truly going to make an impact to everyone that listens and watches the show. Thanks so much for sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much, Jenny.